speaker drama is not going to go away with extra time. You're going to be around Thanksgiving, Christmas. You're talking about another CR. No, now's the time. Let's elect it. It's got to be done in that body, and I think we will.
That's Ralph Norman, a Republican from South Carolina. He's been in the House since 2017, and he's a Jordan ally, saying this problem is not going to go away with time. The Speaker saga continues at this hour. The House in recess during what should have been a third round of voting. Instead, a source telling NewsNation that Jim Jordan will back the motion to empower Patrick McHenry as a temporary speaker until they elect a permanent speaker. Jordan could not get enough support from his party during a second vote to earn the gavel, and now it remains unclear if and when a third vote will happen. Here to talk more about it, Republican strategist Jon Seaton. He's also a former political operative for some presidential campaigns. All right, Jon, this is uncharted territory here. Moving forward, how likely is it this expansion of McHenry's powers will happen in the hours ahead before the president's speech tonight asking for aid?
So it's obviously an extremely fluid situation. So I don't want to say anything with too much absolutes there, but it seems that that's where the momentum is right now. It seems like there's no Republican in the conference right now who can get to 217 votes on the floor. The House has to get back to work. And so it does seem like, at least in the short term, Patrick McHenry will be the compromise option, if you will. And
will they need Democrats to jump on board to make this happen?
Again, what we're seeing right now, it appears that they will, again, which is why this is really not a long-term solution by any stretch, but it does appear that they will need at least some Democratic votes. I can't really give a whip count right now, but yeah, this will almost certainly have to be bipartisan.
And what does it mean to see that Jim Jordan was even further away during his second round of voting than he was in his first, and that they're not ready for a third vote now? Can he get the votes needed in order to become speaker? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for him?
For Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think he has a tremendous amount of work to do. Obviously, he's not going to do a third vote. From what we're hearing now, that Mr. McHenry is going to quite potentially be the kind of compromise solution. We'll see what happens in 2 or 3 months once that term expires, if you will. But Congressman Jordan has a lot of work to do. He's always been a firebrand. He's always been somebody who is seen as kind of very specifically with one faction, if you will, of the Republican conference in the House. And so, yeah, he will have to continue to do a huge amount of outreach. He, as you noted, he fell even more short than Speaker McCarthy did on his first few votes back earlier this year.
Jon, it just stood out to me that you said months. So we could have the pro tem in this position for months, you think?
That is what I've heard. I've heard January floated as kind of a term through the end of this year. We still have to figure out, funding the government. We're dealing with big issues in Ukraine and in the Middle East with Israel. And so I do think that you need some semblance of stability. This was all, by the way, very avoidable, but we need some semblance of stability. Doing this week by week just isn't going to work.
Right. And in order to gain stability, do you expect a rules change? I mean, the motion to vacate that was a concession for Kevin McCarthy that led to this spot that we're in. Do you see that changing as a new speaker takes hold?
Well, I sincerely hope so. It is just it's very difficult to govern as is. It's very difficult with a very small majority, which Republicans have right now, to govern. And if you're constantly looking over your shoulder where one member can make a motion to vacate, I think it really makes it difficult to actually do the job in the people's house. So I don't know if there's an appetite, if there's the votes to change that, but I certainly hope that that's something that's strongly considered by the conference.
Yeah, that alone is reason to not want the job. But why else are people not lining up to be the speaker?
I mean, look, I think it's again, you've got a 4 or 5 seat majority. There's vacancies, and it's a very, as we've seen over the past few days in full view, it's very fractured. You have House Freedom Caucus members, you have kind of the problem solvers, if you will, or the Main Street Coalition. And so to cobble together 218 votes or 217 votes, not just to become speaker, but then to actually pass any legislation that has a chance to get through a democratically controlled Senate and get signed by a Democratic president is exceptionally challenging. And oftentimes you have to cut deals and make compromises and meet folks in the middle. And there's a large, and I'd say it's not a majority of the conference, but a very large and vocal minority that just isn't interested in compromise at all. And as we saw with Speaker McCarthy, 8 rogue members can really, throw things into chaos. So it's certainly not a job that I'd envy anyone for having, and it will take a very specific kind of person who can not just get the trust of the conference, but also then keep that trust and remain speaker and work across the Congress and get some legislation passed that a Democratic president will sign.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.